I really appreciate you guys for hopping on. This is the official SIFF curtain raiser conversation for us to talk about our most anticipated films at SIFF. Just a reminder, SIFF is happening from May 15th to May 25th in Seattle, of course. And there's a variety of theaters screening films for SIFF, including the SIFF Downtown, SIFF Uptown. Opening films for Mothers, closing film is Sorry Baby, and there's lots to talk about in between those two films. So, joining me on this curtain raiser, I actually have a collection of Cascadia film and TV critics here on the line. First up, we have the creator of Nick Tiffany Movie Reviews. It is Nick Tiffany.
How we doing? Good to be here.
We also have film critic and member of the Seattle Film Critic Society, Eric Sue,
Hey.
and the creator of the Celluloid Correspondent, Elizabeth Mulroy. Sorry,
Well,
Mulloy.
it's Mulloy.
Oh man, dang it! I almost had it, guys. I was almost there. Sorry, Elizabeth Mulloy.
It took my PE teacher 5 years to get it right, so you're all good.
Oh yeah,
So, hello.
I won't take 5 years, but I'm glad that you're all here. Well, okay, guys. So SIFF is coming up. We're only a couple days away from it. I actually want to start with talking about your history or your experience with SIFF so far. And Eric, let's start with you. What has been your experience with SIFF up to now?
I first started doing SIFF virtually because, I grew up in Seattle, but I went to college in California, and it was in college that I started really getting into movies. So by the time I was hearing about SIFF and wanting to see films, COVID had hit, or I was in California. So I think the first year I went to SIFF was the year I think I saw The Worst Person in the World virtually, Hit the Road. Maybe that was 2021, 2022. And then since coming back to Seattle after graduating, that's when I've really started going to the festival. And it's been a progression. I think the first year I was back, I only saw one or two, and now here we are.
Yep, covering it officially as accredited press. So that's pretty cool. Elizabeth, tell us about your history and experience with SIFF.
So pretty much right when I moved up here, 3.5 years ago, I regularly started to attend SIFF, go to some of the regular films, and then they finally had their film festival, and that was like my first ever film festival I ever gone to, and that's when I was just starting to post stuff on social media. So I just went there, just started watching a bunch of movies from all over the world, and slowly as the years have gone by, just slowly built up a repertoire of films I've seen at SIFF. So this is my second year as official press going to SIFF.
Yeah.
So we'll see how many films I see this time around. I think last year I saw 20, and I think right now I'm currently looking at 30 something.
Like a real film festival goer. This is what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, what's your history and experience with SIFF so far?
SIFF, that probably goes back 2013, maybe 2014. Was the first SIFF that I attended back when I was probably the senior year of high school, when I was accredited in Seattle. And I want to say, yeah, I can remember certain premieres, whether it was Spy. They did the Woody Allen movie one, the Cafe Society one year. I've got fond memories of different, kind of early interviews back then too. Jason Segel had come up when they had the end of the tour. So just a lot of great memories of different SIFF spots that then were new to me for the most part, because I'd go to Pacific Place or AMC's and Regals. So getting to kind of experience some of the downtown feel was really fun back when they had DVD screeners. You could go almost take out like a library. And so then I was down in Houston for a little while, got out of the critic game for just a bit. So about 3 years ago, went to SIFF just as a film fan. There were more than a few films that I wanted to see. I was kind of getting back into it a bit. And so last year I covered it as press. So happy to be back this year and covering as press again. I think similar to Elizabeth, I want to say maybe 20-25 films last year that I saw, and looking to bump that number up. Did a few interviews as well, which was really fun to kind of get back into. So really looking forward to this festival.
it's really cool that we all have kind of these extended histories with SIFF. I remember when I first went to SIFF, it was such a new experience for me because whether you're in the industry or not, you hear about film festivals, right? Like Sundance, Venice, Cannes, like you hear about them. But if you're outside of the industry, it's really just kind of this distant thing that's like, it's just outside of your reach, right? So I remember kind of looking into it one year, like, okay, how many thousands of dollars does it take to go to SIFF? Because I just thought it was an industry thing. I thought you had to be like in the know, right? And so it's really cool to that for those who don't know, for those who are maybe in that position that I was, you can just get a ticket to a movie at the Seattle Film Festival, and just go to a movie and not have to commit a whole bunch of time and resources if you don't want to. I mean, the lineup has a diverse set of films, and there's kind of something for everyone. And for the price of a ticket, you can go see these things. So I remember figuring that out and being like, oh, well, that's cool. Let's go. And the first year I went to SIFF was whatever year the Babadook was making its rounds. And the
Okay.
Babadook like changed my life. that movie is so great. And so yeah, I ever since then I've been hooked, and so I make SIFF an annual thing. It's really cool to have such a prominent film festival here in the Pacific Northwest, kind of representing a lot of really great titles that have come out or making the film festival circuit throughout the year. And yeah, they bring a lot of great film to Seattle, and so for the people who can't go to TIFF or Cannes or Sundance, so many of those titles end up here in Seattle, and it's really cool to have that kind of hub for film festival films. So yeah, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to do a bunch of interviews, and it's awesome for me as a journalist to have SIFF as a resource, to be able to have access to this talent, this filmmaking talent. So many of these the mega film festivals are really, really difficult to get interviews at, or really, really difficult to cover some of these bigger films. So when they come to Seattle, it just makes it a lot more attainable for me to get an interview or to cover a film. So thank you, SIFF. We appreciate you.
For as long a festival as it is, it's far less taxing than some that might only last 5 days or so.
Right. All right. Well, there's a lot of movies to talk about, and I want to jump into a couple honorable mentions that I've seen at previous festivals, and I have to strongly, strongly recommend. And this first pairing I'm going to call must see in theaters docs. I know I'm guilty of this. I overlook docs all the time. It's unfortunate, but docs have some of the best filmmaking in the year, and it's really cool to see that SIFF not only got the film Viktor, which premiered at TIFF last year, and Come See Me in a Good Light, Come See Me in the Good Light, which premiered at Sundance. But both of those are two of like the most beautifully filmed documentaries I've seen in the past year. And there's like back-to-back screenings on the 17th. So I think at SIFF downtown, Viktor plays early afternoon, and then right after that, Come See Me in the Good Light plays at the same theater. So like that's like the double feature of the festival, in my opinion. So I really wanted to put that out there. I also have Not for Everyone experiences. These are very, very unique films that, as titled, are not for everyone, but are still really awesome in theater experiences to try out. Dead Lover from director Grace Glowicki. It was a midnight premiere at Sundance. This one was it's so out there. It's so bonkers, but it's just, if you are ready for just kind of a wild, nonsensical time on a midnight screening, it's insane. Lots of people walked out on it at the premiere, but like I said, it's not for everyone. But it's a really interesting experience. I'd recommend giving it a try. And then By Design by Amanda Kramer, fantastic film in my opinion. I loved Please Baby Please, and just adored that film. And so when By Design premiered at Sundance, I was like, that's a priority, and I had to see it, and I did, and I loved that one equally as much. So those are my call outs. Really quick with Viktor, I have an interview with the director on ForReel. I also have an interview with the cinematographer for Come See Me in the Good Light on ForReel. I have the red carpet of Dead Lover on ForReel, and by design, I interviewed the editor of that film. So those are my shout outs. Anyone else have like an honorable mention that's not in your top three that we're going to get to here pretty soon?
Ooh.
Ooh.
You know,
I sprung this question on you guys.
Do we have to have seen them? Do we have, you know, one that certainly caught my eye and I really want to get to watch it was Auction, which was about that lost painting stolen by the Nazis, turns up at a cottage in eastern France, setting a sort of mystery in motion of how it got there and maybe who gets to keep it. And so something, it's only about 90 minutes, French film, but very, something about it was just really intriguing to me. There's a certain draw with art history. You know, I think it's something like The Monuments Men, just off the top of my head, is something that I hope it's a little more interesting than Monuments Men. But something about that period of time, and there's just so many aspects of the war and what the Nazis did and what they stole, and uncovering things like that, I find super fascinating. So that's definitely one that was close to making my must see, or at least my top list.
This is why we do this. I love hearing these recommendations and learning about films that weren't on my radar. Elizabeth, any quick honorable mentions that weren't in that didn't quite make your top three?
One film that I saw at the Toronto International Film Festival was Souleymane's Story. This won I believe, the Uncertain Regard Jury Prize and the Uncertain Regard Best Performance Prize at Cannes Film Festival last year. And within the opening minutes of watching it, it absolutely makes sense why this film won the awards it did. It is incredibly stressful of a migrant working his way through France's asylum system. And trust me, this is similar to Uncut Gems, with anxiety and noises up to the max. And it is an absolutely amazing film with a breakout performance from, I know I'm going to butcher this name, I am so sorry, Abun Sergey, who is not an actor, who's not a professional actor, and I believe this is also his acting debut, and a phenomenal debut from him. So I highly recommend Souleymane's Story.
There you go. I haven't gotten around to that one yet, but I'm going to have to. I think this might be the festival I get to that one. Eric, any quick honorable mentions before we get to our top three?
Before that, though, I would second Souleymane's Story. Elizabeth did a great advertisement, did a great shout out for it, but I would also say it is the most unexpected 100 gex needle drop I've ever experienced in a movie. I would shout out Dea Kulumbegashvili's April. I watched it last year at New York Film Festival, and it's the follow-up to Beginning, which was one of my favorite films of 2020. This is a really depressing film as well. It's about an obstetrician in rural Georgia, like the European country Georgia, who also provides like secret abortions on the side. And basically, baby dies during childbirth while she's on her shift, and there's this investigation into her life. It sort of seems initially like it's going to be a type of Eastern European, like mid-2000s type of art film, but the film really pushes itself into a more surreal horror. I mean, it's beautifully directed. It's really harrowing and elemental. And there's a scene in this movie where there's this like rainfall, and there's this like massive, just like elemental storm that is one of my scenes of the year, and it has this like crazy punctuation mark at the end that I will not spoil.
All you have to do is give me a cliffhanger. Just give me a tease, and I'm like sold.
Definitely see it in the theater, because oh my god, even just the sound and the like crazy colors in this movie, all the yellows and reds and greens, like it's beautiful.
Okay, it's on my list now. Thank you for that recommendation. Thank you all for your honorable mentions. It's always great to get more titles in front of me. So, all right, so we all have our top three most anticipated films, kind of figured out. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to go round robin style, and everyone will start with our third most anticipated, and then our second most anticipated, and then we'll end with one more round on all of our most anticipated films. I'm going to kick this off. And before I start with mine, something that I kind of disclaimer with my recommendations or like things that I'm interested in is that I don't look a whole lot into the movies that I'm excited for. I want to go in as blind as possible, so I don't watch trailers. I try not to. I mean, I might go back and watch previous films of the directors or like try to be familiar with filmographies, but that's it. And so I don't know a whole lot about these movies. So that's my disclaimer. That's my little asterisk on my selections. But for my number 3 most anticipated film, I am going to go with Good Boy. Um, Directed by Ben Leonberg. This is a movie where apparently it takes place from the perspective of a dog. It's like a thriller film from the perspective of a dog. I don't need to know anything else. Like, that sounds like a great premise if it's executed properly, and I have a feeling this is executed properly. With a 73-minute runtime, it sounds like it doesn't overstay its welcome. And so I think it seems pretty concise, pretty constrained, but I can't even imagine how this looks or how it's going to go, and I don't want to. I just want to see the film. So that's when I saw that on the lineup, I was like, yeah, I really want to get to that screening. So, Good Boy is my number 3 most anticipated film. So,
Amazing.
yeah, any thoughts about Good Boy?
I appreciate what you said first, just in the idea of not knowing too much about some of these going in, because what you've said has certainly piqued my interest more than enough to continue to add this film, among others, down to the list. I don't know. It's one of those when you look through the booklets, it's like, okay, I'm reading hundreds of film bios, but hearing someone else talk about it, it's like, okay, maybe I don't know why that didn't seem as interesting at first when I read it to me. I must have just been blowing by.
There is a lot to look at and a lot to process with lineups, and when you are reading 100 synopsises, you have to really stand out. But that's what these conversations are for. Anyone else have thoughts on Good Boy?
I mean, I'm loving reading this this blurb on the SIFF website, which has informed me that this film won Best Canine Performance and was the winner of the South by Southwest Howl of Fame Award, which seems very fitting. I mean, yeah, this looks like so much fun.
Yeah,
we're getting a lot of good dog performances.
You can't argue with a good dog performance, right? I mean, now that we have stunts at the Academy, now let's get Best Animal Performance.
I was getting those cats. Those cats are coming for it this year at SIFF, though. They're not going to let the dogs off easy.
Yeah, this year, this is the SIFF, cats and dogs. Like, that's kind of the theme.
Yes.
Nick, let's move on to your number 3 selection. What do you have as your third most anticipated film of SIFF?
Number 3, I've got Salsa Lives, directed by Juan Carvajal. And this is an examination of the salsa boom that took place in New York, I want to say in the 70s, kind of into the 80s, looking at a lot of the influence from Puerto Rico, Cuba. The moment they showed a trailer for this during the press launch, anything music, I'm always partial to. But Hispanic and Latin American music, whether it was growing up in Texas or some of the friends and family that I've got, has always been something that I've grown up with, and I've just always been such a fan of it. I watch a lot of Dancing with the Stars, so anything that's also got dancing is always pretty appealing to me. So this is just the perfect storm of watching people dance to great music, bringing people together, and I love something that's going to kind of touch on some of the history of where it came from and the reach of how far it's kind of spread. Because as far as some of the different Latin dances could go, salsa dancing is a little bit easier and a little more accessible for people. So it'll be interesting to kind of look and see how it caught on so quickly, and just hearing people talk about it.
Yeah,
not enough dancing these days. So,
any other thoughts on Salsa Lives?
No, not really. I mean, I always like a good dance documentary, and especially one that you can jam out to is always the best experience.
Yeah, this one wasn't on my radar. So, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Oh, good. Just one other fun thing about this one is that on one of the screenings, they're giving away free tickets to the Edmonds Center for the Arts.
Oh,
So
cool.
need a
Yeah.
reason to go other than the fact that this movie looks great.
Yep.
Well, unlike
Yeah.
unlike some dance or music docs, it's a little more upbeat than some as well. So that's looking forward to that as well. Not that I don't mind silent, serious ballet documentaries, but this will be nice to kind of you'll get your BPMs going a little bit.
Nice. Very nice. Good selection there. Eric, let's move to your number 3 most anticipated film of SIFF.
My number 3 is sort of a cheat since I technically saw this at another festival, but fell fast asleep and practically didn't see it. It's Hong Sang-soo's By the Stream. I'm a huge fan of Hong Sang-soo. I didn't wear my Hong Sang-soo hat or my Hong Sang-soo t-shirt for this call, but I could not be a bigger fan. Recently, he's been incredibly prolific. He averages about 2 to 3 movies a year, and he does all the technicals. He's writer, director, producer, composer, editor, all of it. And he's doing these like diaristic, intimate dramas, sort of about. Oh, it's hard to say what they're about, but a lot of the times they're about like awkwardness and trying to like self-express, and they're about the relationships between men and women. They're about love, sincerity. They're these really beautiful, like totally pared down dramas. He writes his scripts day of. I think he's maybe like one of our greatest living filmmakers, and there's no one else doing it like him right now. The things he's doing in terms of narrative construction, what he's even doing with his project of what you can do with a minimal budget, with just you and your small group of friends, like making some of the like most high profile movies in the world. Nothing like it. By the Stream in particular is sort of different on paper than his past few films. For one, it's almost 2 hours long, which is very rare for this most recent period, which I would say starts around 2020, 2021. Those films mostly are around the 80 to 90 minute mark. So that in itself is different. And Kim Min Hee, who maybe you guys might recognize from The Handmaiden, she's the lead in that film. She is Hong's wife, and the two of them were involved in a very high-profile scandal in around 2017, like a cheating scandal, um, which has led to both of them being ostracized from the wider Korean film industry. But there's a period where Kim Min Hee was the lead in like many of Hong's films, all sort of reckoning with the aftermath of this scandal. So the logline of this one includes a university lecturer who's directing a play where the previous director left under a cloud of scandal. So this particular film almost feels like it could be a mix of different phases of Hong's career. So I'm very excited to see it properly this time, and I will never miss an opportunity to evangelize about Hong Sang-soo.
I
You
love
only
it.
fell asleep because you were tired, right?
Yeah, I only felt well.
Too
It was my
many
first day
films.
getting off of the plane. I was
Oh,
on 2 hours.
this was an off the
It was
plane
a 10
watch for
p.m.
you.
screening, 9 p.m. screening. It was over.
No, it's real. It's real. I mean, I know people
Yeah.
think because we like movies, we should be able to stay awake for all of them. But
The
guys,
mind says you can do it, but then the body hits you with like, I'm shutting down. No.
yeah, yeah, this is tough.
Like I think at TIFF I fell asleep 3 times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a really compelling film, like when I'm really tired, because I've done like red eyes into a screening that morning, right? Like it's not easy.
That's tough.
But but it's cool when you get a second chance to see it in theaters or to see it locally. So a little bit of saving grace there. Any other thoughts on By the Stream?
That sounds super fascinating. Just as far as some of his projects go, how you described how he kind of shoots them, films them, works on the pretty much the totality of everything that goes on there. Especially knowing now this scandal's going on, and whether you're kind of shunned from the wider Korean film market. the idea that they're still going and they're still kind of telling these stories is pretty fascinating. And as far as artists go, you kind of turn your life and your stories and things into more art. And so I'm kind of fascinated to see how how this film will play out, actually, just given the little bit that you've kind of clued us into about their
We
past, I
already
think.
got another film finished, premiered at Berlin this year, and another one that's in post-production right now.
Oh my goodness. Eric came with all the tea. I
It's like
want
some
your movie on their movies, okay? Like, I just want to see
that,
your take on this life.
yes.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts on By the Stream?
No, not really. It sounds very fascinating, and a film that's always shrouded in scandal always sounds very interesting. So,
Well, let's move right into your number 3 pick. Elizabeth, what's your number 3 most anticipated film of SIFF?
all right. So, a film that I've heard rumblings about for the past couple of months is Mickey Magasiva. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Tina. This had its world premiere at the Hawaiian International Film Festival to great applause, and then it finally worked its way back to its home country in New Zealand, where it started breaking box office records. It became the third largest opening weekend for a New Zealand film in New Zealand's history. So the film is already incredibly beloved by those in New Zealand, and now it's finally working its way to SIFF. And pretty much we follow a grieving mother in the wake of the Christchurch earthquake, moves to, I believe, Auckland to work for a school to be their choir teacher and to help their students compete at the Big Sing competition. SIFF rarely sells out in terms of tickets. And Tina has already sold out both of its showings. It is currently on standby right now. And this is pretty unprecedented for SIFF. I mean, I think they maybe have one film that sells out, but the fact that Tina has sold out both screenings is absolutely insane. And I am just very excited for this. I just know I have to get into that pass holder line very, very early to get a seat.
You make a very valid point, because I think I expected films like Rebuilding or Twinless, like these like high profile Sundance films, to be the ones that sell out. And they still have tickets, by the way, guys. Like there's still tickets for some of these like really high profile films. And so when I saw Tina was sold out, I was like, how is this not on my radar? Like so yes, that it's making waves, and that's cool that those waves are happening here in Seattle too.
No, definitely. They showed a trailer for it, I think at the press launch. And after watching that, it was like, okay, I'm in. You knew nothing about it at all. Has some of that standard Kiwi humor a little bit, some of the New Zealand. There's so much friendliness to it. There's also, some great sadness to the story, I think, too. And I'm really curious to see how, I believe, it's got a lot to do with music, I think, in her kind of maybe starting a choir of some sort, or helping kids express themselves in a certain way. As someone who grew up in choir and doing all sorts of stuff like that, I love anything that kind of touches on the importance of the arts. And certainly it's a great way for, I'm sure, her to heal and to kind of help others too. And I saw that I believe he'll be up here for the festival, but and I'm sure I'm going to botch his name, but Biula Kawale, he was in Next Goal Wins. He was the main character, the soccer star that they're trying to recruit to the team. I believe he'll be here for the festival, but seeing him pop up in there and a few other things, I was like, okay, this is definitely on the gotta see this. It looks great.
Eric, any final thoughts on Tina?
Yeah, I mean, now that Nick mentioned it, the trailer from the press launch is coming back to me now. This one looked really sweet, and I actually it makes me really happy to see that this would sell out, especially because like this sort of smaller international, these sorts of smaller international titles are what I personally like to go see at SIFF. So it makes me happy to see that they're doing well.
Yeah. So sold out screenings. Hopefully, there's some availability in the standby lines, or if you're a pass holder, this is a high demand movie. So, yeah, definitely try to check that one out. All right, we're gonna come back around to pick our number 2 most anticipated film. My number 2 is the film Bitter Gold. I believe it's the director is Juan Olea. But again, I don't know a whole lot about this movie, but I was reading the synopsis, and it says in this pulse pounding neo western thriller, and then I stopped and said, "Yeah, I want to see that." I have no idea what else. I know it's set in Chile, and in a mining industry. You know, I don't need to know anything else. I just kind of stopped reading the synopsis. I'm sold. That is enough to get me into the door and in my seat, and I'm really interested in seeing like what kind of story this is going to be, and how it's going to play out. So yeah, pulse pounding neo western thriller. Enough said, I guess. that's what I have to say.
You had me at Neo, and anytime you throw Neo in there, the eyebrow kind of raises a little bit of and so much can go wrong in a mine. So I'm in. From pickaxes, there's a lot of weapons. You could get very creative with something like this. So yeah, I like you. I was like, yep, that's definitely gone on the list.
Any other thoughts on Bitter Gold?
I mean, what a great title. Just that title alone is getting me interested.
See, we really don't need to know a whole lot about this movie. Like, it just kind of sells itself so easily. Elizabeth, do you have any thoughts, or is this on your radar?
Yeah, this is one that's definitely on my radar. So right now I'm torn between seeing either Bitter Gold or one of the short programs. So
tough.
Yeah, I know, it's so tough. I'm like, okay, do I go see shorts or do I go see Bitter Gold? So thinking right now maybe leaning towards Bitter Gold, but yeah, I saw the title and I went, ooh, that sounds very interesting. Read the synopsis and I went, okay, yeah, I'm kind of sold. So
very cool. Yeah, glad to get that on people's radars. Nick, let's move to your number 2. What is your number 2 most anticipated film?
My number 2 most anticipated. I don't know if I can say the full title here, but
you can absolutely go for it.
Okay,
no, go for it. Say the whole thing.
we're talking about Fucktoys from writer, director, and star Annapurna Sriram. This played South by Southwest, won the special jury prize there. As they state, it's a vividly pastel-colored romp about a woman who embarks upon a sex worker odyssey through Trash Town with her non-binary friend to break a terrible curse that's befallen her. I'm a big South by Southwest fan. If there's a festival I've been to more than, not as much as SIFF here, but I've been a few years down there. I love some of the comedies that come out of there. There always is something zany, unpredictable. I think something I've always admired about SIFF and South by, perhaps in particular, there is a little bit more inclusivity in the stories you tell. There's also a little bit more edginess to some of the stories you can tell, whether it's stories that revolve around sex and sex work, drugs, adult, like I'm thinking of Adult Beginners and this idea of we're going to have adults with kids smoking weed in a movie. And 10 years ago, maybe that seemed wild, but there's a lot of films that always come out of there that I think challenge audiences in a healthy way. And so watching the trailer for that looks funny. It looks very interesting. A lot of eyebrow raising moments just from the trailer alone. It looks like it's going to be sexy. It looks like it's going to be funny. It kind of knows what it is in some ways too. So I'm curious, especially following Anora. I did not expect Anora to win the awards that it did, let alone just sweep the way it kind of did. So I'm curious to see how audiences are going to respond to this one as well. Because already you could read comments and they're like, this is the next Anora for whatever, and it's like, I'm sure it's not at all, but it was completely different. But
it is interesting. I think Anora, I mean, sex work has been entering into more mainstream storytelling over time. Honora has kind of broken the floodgates a little bit, I think, because we also have Paying for It that premiered at TIFF last year, which has a similar subject matter about exploring sex work um, and the viability of that. So like, yeah, I think we're seeing more of these kind of stories. And to Nick's point, these festivals are giving us the opportunity to take in these stories that kind of challenge audiences and really, make us think about our preconceived notions on certain topics. And so you have this, you have and Paying for It are two films that deal with that subject matter, and it's interesting to have them both here at SIFF. So, any other thoughts on Fucktoys?
I mean, it looks like a lot of fun, and I mean, something I also appreciate about it is, yeah, Annapurna Sriram writes, directs, and stars in it, and I'm always curious when um, someone has many hats on, and this is her feature debut as well. So,
It's a bold multi-hyphenate debut.
I do love a good writer, director, actor debut.
And
It's
not
always something
playing
I
it
look for.
safe by the nature of everything, So I
Nope.
appreciate a first time director kind of swinging for the fences in some ways, and taking some. I don't want to call it a creative. We should be at a point where the story is not a creative risk, or it's viewed that way. But it's still the world we live in, unfortunately. So it's cool to see that it's getting made the way that it was intended to.
Yeah, Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
I mean, I was sold by the title when I saw it. I'm like, oh, I like it when a filmmaker just goes straight to the point with a very bold title. And I'm like, damn, that takes some balls to do, but I always appreciate it.
Very cool. Let's see, Eric. We're moving on to your number 2 most anticipated film at SIFF.
yes, I mean, you're gonna start seeing a trend where a lot of the titles I'm anticipating are very director centric. So this one is Invention, directed by Courtney Stevens. Um, I've been hearing about Courtney Stevens a bit the past few years. She made a pretty big name for herself relatively in experimental documentary. There was one that came out over COVID about pieces of the Berlin Wall that are in the United States that she made with Pacho Velez of the Harvard Sensory Ethnography Lab. And this is so this is her fiction feature debut, and it seems to have like a similar interest in history. It's a collaboration with Callie Hernandez, and it's sort of an auto-fictional indie. So Callie Hernandez is playing a version of herself, investigating some of these artifacts left behind by her recently deceased father, one of which includes this patent, which I think is related to some sorts of like health conspiracies that he was involved with. I mean, this film looks great. It's shot on 16. I watched the trailer, and it looks like it has this mixture of sort of a European art film and like an American indie that's been becoming more popular these past few years. And it almost seems like it has this like conspiratorial, like almost supernatural bent to it. I mean, it looks fantastic, and I can't wait. And Courtney Stevens is going to be in attendance too, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Very nice. This wasn't on my radar. And I don't know why this stands out to me, but when I see runtimes under 90 minutes, I get really excited. So at a 72-minute
I can
runtime,
add one more.
yeah. 72-minute runtime, that appeals to me. Any other thoughts here on Invention?
Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I might have to look it up now.
Shot on 16. Definitely would love to see how that presents. And very very interesting as far as some of the. I feel like there've been a good number of stories recently with that kind of the sins of the father uncovering, after they're gone or so. It's like, maybe the grass wasn't as green as I thought it was. There's kind of maybe something a little seedy underneath that you've got to explore. So that kind of mental thriller almost. I appreciate that genre a lot, and that it's kind of getting a lot of love.
Very cool. All right. Elizabeth, let's move on to your number 2 most anticipated film of SIFF.
All right. Starring internet boyfriends Josh O'Connor comes one of his films that he has premiering at SIFF, because he has 2 films premiering at SIFF, and it's Max Walter Silverman's Rebuilding. This had its world premiere at Sundance Film Festival to lots of buzz and acclaim for its timeliness regarding natural disasters. And given that this is dealing with wildfires, and this came out pretty much right after the LA wildfires, it really pulled a lot of heartstrings at Sundance. And with an ensemble featuring Megan Faye and Callie Reese, this is definitely a film to watch out for, and this will definitely be one of the films that will have one of the hottest tickets at SIFF. And it's definitely one of the larger films at the festival.
Yeah, I was so bummed that I missed this at Sundance. I've heard great things, and when I saw it on the SIFF lineup, I was really excited about that. So, any other thoughts on Rebuilding?
I love Josh O'Connor.
Yes, seconded. Yeah, no, it's nice that it's maybe a little more timely of a story. I think that especially in some cases, certain events like that and how the timing of things works out certainly probably it lends itself, I'm sure, better to the story and your involvement in it and the emotional attachment there. And so Josh O'Connor's been doing a lot of really interesting and really great projects recently. So it's kind of cool to see him continue to do projects that probably just inspire him and aren't necessarily the flashiest or showiest. But Megan Faye, I've started seeing her in more than a few things recently too, and I like her. So that's definitely a must see. It's definitely one of my must see in person for the festival for sure.
It's like I heard Josh O'Connor has a southern accent in this. So I am very curious to see how that sounds.
Seated and ready.
I'm seated.
My cowboy hat ready.
Yeah, right. All right, guys, we're going into the last round. These are our number 1 most anticipated films at TIFF, and I think that we're going to name some really interesting things here. I'm going to kick it off with another one that I know very little about, but again, I hit the synopsis and was sold. So the movie that I am most looking forward to is called The Wailing, from director Pedro Martin Calero. And the synopsis just says 3 women separated in time and space are unknowingly connected by a threat that nobody can explain. Something is stalking them and provoking unthinkable acts of violence with one eerie thing in common: a disturbing sound of wailing. Like, I can't be more on board with this. It's just like this multi-timeline thriller. Anyone who knows me knows I like interconnected stories, right? I like when things kind of interweave with each other and have kind of a something in common to connect stories. I mean, this is one of the reasons the Infinity Saga was so alluring to me, was because of the interconnectivity that Marvel just cannot figure out now. I digress. But this seems like a really cool approach to a multi-timeline story. And this is another one that I just don't want to know anything else about. Give me the synopsis and give me the runtime, 107 minutes. I can deal with that. Sounds great. Let's go. I am so on board with this. So The Wailing, that's my number 1 pick. Any other thoughts about The Wailing?
I'm planning on watching that in a couple of days, hopefully.
Nice.
That anything with wailing and shrieking in a horror thriller film, I'm like, I'm preparing myself to be unsettled. So I'm glad you read the synopsis. I knew it had to do something with wailing, but let me not watch this with headphones. Let me make sure that's one that I've got to.
Eric, any thoughts on this one?
One thing about The Wailing is I'm not someone who normally follows distributors around, but there are always a few distributors where if they're picking something up and distributing it, I'll try to keep an eye on them. And The Wailing is distributed by Film Movement. which is one of those distributors I like to keep an eye on. So there's some curatorial mark behind it that lends me to think that there's something worth checking out there.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Nick, what is your number one most anticipated film of SIFF?
My number one film, shocker, it's another one coming out of South by Southwest. Won the grand jury there, actually. It's called Slanted, directed and written by Amy Wang. Interestingly enough, I just digging into a little bit about her before doing an interview with her later in the week for the film. She's from Australia, grew up in Australia. This is the story in these words: Chinese American teen Joan Wong just wants to fit in at her high school, but when she hastily undergoes an experimental medical procedure to become Caucasian, the consequences could be devastating in this biting speculative fiction satire. And so much of it already, from the dystopian Black Mirror-ness of it to the weird reality of like shit like this is probably not too far off, and I'm sure there's seedy companies already attempting things like this, but really interested in the commentary just around growing up the high school sphere, but kind of approaching it obviously not from a white person's point of view, and just kind of understanding still in modern days how certain thoughts that we have about our appearances and our life and what would be easier. I think it's certainly scratching an itch of something that's very fascinating to explore, and there's certainly going to be some comedic aspects there. So yeah, it just totally it jumped out as me as like maybe this is Black Mirror, but also kind of dark comedy. So I love that combo there.
Yeah. I think I'm pursuing an interview with Amy as well. So we're all gonna have really, really good, interesting conversations with her. Any other thoughts on Slanted?
I really want to see this. It wasn't on my radar at all. So, especially just by an Asian American director about this topic, I feel like I should see it. I want to see it.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I heard a lot of buzz of this one coming out of South by Southwest, so I'm definitely curious now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. On our radars. All right, Eric, your number one most anticipated film of SIFF.
My number one is Jennifer Reeves' The Glory of Your Imagination. I was sitting next to Elizabeth and Nick at the press launch, and I think they heard me talk about this movie so much when I was there because I just could not believe that SIFF programmed a Jennifer Reeves film. I got into her sometime last year, and she works in sort of between the short film format and like feature length. But she normally makes, if you guys know, like Stan Brakhage or like Phil Solomon, she uses archival footage, but then works on it with like optical printing and like physical like distress of the film stock and like doing hand painting. So she is working very much so in like an American avant-garde tradition. So I never thought they would program her first feature film since 2008, I think. This one is about a woman named Gloria who was filmed in the 60s working with 3 different therapists. And my understanding is that it's like a dual projection sort of situation where she's altering and doing different manipulations to this sort of archival footage to create different resonances and meanings. I'm still just in disbelief that I'm not only able to see this film because I thought I was never going to be able to see it after seeing so much buzz about it last year, and that it's going to be playing in theater, and Jennifer Reeves is scheduled to attend.
Oh, awesome.
All the great things. Nice. Any other thoughts? This one wasn't on my radar. I think I looked over the synopsis and it didn't jump out at me as something that I needed to see. But then Eric wouldn't shut up about it. Uh, so now I might be
Lots of
convinced.
films are available online, and I watched a few this afternoon, and oh my god, I rewatched one, Trains Are for Dreaming. Highly, highly recommend. It's on YouTube. It's only 7 minutes long.
Oh,
Nice.
only.
Only less than 90 minutes, I'm in. Uh, any other thoughts on the Gloria of your imagination?
That sounds super fascinating, just as far as the archival footage goes, and being able to kind of manipulate that and update some of it, and now you might splice it around like that. Your passion for it certainly sold me, but that also
Mhm.
just sounds really fascinating as well.
Nice. Elizabeth, we're going to move on to your number one most anticipated film. And I have to tell you that we did a curtain raiser for Sundance, and this was also someone's number one most anticipated film for that. And that was like one of our most buzzed about segments of these videos. So why don't you let everyone know what your number one most anticipated film is?
So this was a film that I was supposed to watch at Sundance.
Oh no.
However, because of a couple of Dylan O'Brien stan accounts who decided to leak a couple of key scenes, the film was taken down from all the screeners, including press. So,
Damn.
I have to wait 5 more months to finally go watch James Sweeney's Twinless, where we follow two men, played by Dylan O'Brien and James Sweeney, trauma bond over a lost twin. Oh, hello, kitty cats. You got the zoomies, don't you?
You said Dylan O'Brien, didn't you?
Yes. She came to the call of Dylan O'Brien.
She's purring.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do not climb up on the crash pad and get stuck up there. I do not want to have to rescue you. Oh, do not knock stuff over. Please don't. But, so back to Twinless before I was interrupted by a little kitty cat. Pretty much this film came out with a lot of buzz from Sundance Film Festival. It won the audience prize in the U.S. dramatic competition, and Dylan O'Brien won Best Performance. And now his performance is now starting to generate some early Oscar buzz, and with a fall release date, this is nicely setting itself into that fall festival, fall film premiere to get itself right into perfect spot for Oscar contention. And Kitty Cat is back. But I have heard many amazing things about this, and this absolutely beautiful and also heartbreaking dramedy. And also, this is a Pacific Northwest based film, as this takes place in Seattle, not Seattle, Portland, Oregon. And
close enough.
Writer, director, and actor James Sweeney is planning on attending the film festival. And I believe one of the screenings for Twinless is currently on standby right now. So this is probably another, better get that ticket now than later.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, I was fortunate enough, very, very fortunate, to be at the world premiere of this one at Sundance. I think I needed to sit on it a little bit, and which is a different reaction than everyone else had. I'm in the minority here, because everyone that I know, I was literally like the only one that was like, in all of Park City. Like I could just I could feel all of Park City glaring at me for not loving this movie as much as everyone else did.
Of course, Thomas doesn't like it.
It's not that I don't like it. Here's my thing, right? I'm excited about seeing it a second time because it's one of those movies where technically everything about this movie is exceptional, right? Dylan O'Brien kills it. Like he is so good. And I think James Sweeney has a concept here for a story that is everything that I want out of this kind of bromance buddy dark comedy kind of story. I wasn't quite prepared for the thing it does after the title card. There is a switch that happens that I just wasn't ready for, and so I think that kind of tripped me up a little bit. But there's nothing else that I could say about the movie that I didn't like. Like it is a solidly made movie. It's very entertaining. It's very funny. And I am very much looking forward to seeing it again in the theater. I want to close out SIFF the way, because I was supposed to. I saw the premiere and I wanted to end Sundance on this one, but as Elizabeth uh, uh, pointed out, Sundance ended up taking it offline. So I would like to end SIFF on this movie, because it is a really great one to be in the audience with, and to just just really live in. And it's an experience for sure. And even though I have to come to terms with my own experience with the film, I happily recommend it to people. If you're looking for a dark comedy, if you're looking for that bromance aspect of a film, if you're looking for good performances, it's all here. And I think a lot of people really gravitate to that, and I don't see yeah, and I see the Seattle audience doing the same thing, which is really fun because yes, it takes place in Portland, but there are a couple scenes with the Kraken. Like they actually go into Climate Pledge Arena and get a couple shots in Climate Pledge, which is really fun to see. So yeah, this is very much one that deserves to be a number one most anticipated. Like I said, for Sundance, it was the most anticipated. Here, absolutely deserves this position. So excellent choice, Elizabeth. Any other thoughts on Twinless?
I'm just glad to see Dylan O'Brien.
Yeah, I was about to say Dylan O'Brien.
Some work recently.
No?
He does look good. He's been an interesting one. It was good seeing him pop up as Dan Aykroyd and a few other things that maybe I didn't know he was in recently. But yeah, he was always a talented guy. So always happy to see him in something. And yeah, the closeness of the Portland area, is certainly especially for us Cascadia critics, we've always got to be looking for those films that touch on some of these regions, at least hopefully. So
it's so funny. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying this. So there's a point where they say, "Have you been to Moscow?" And he says, "Idaho," and like, "Is there another one?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so great." Anyone who is familiar with Eastern Washington, and because I'm a Coug, went to Washington State University, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody knows Moscow, Idaho. It's great. It's so cool to see on the big screen.
Finally feeling seen,
right? Eric, did you want to have any final words on Twinless?
Well, I was one of those people who was scrolling online around Sundance, and then I saw some gifs of Dylan O'Brien, and then I went, oh, maybe I want to see this on Sundance Online. And by the time I got to the portal and was ready to pay the exorbitant Sundance Online price for the ticket, it was taken down. Oh. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Twinless.
That's going to be a good one.
I was about to hit play when it was taken down.
No, one of our team members was watching it, like in the middle of watching it when it got taken down. He was able to finish it, but like everyone was buzzing about how they couldn't access it. And he's like, well, I'm watching it. It's like, oh, you must have just started it like right in
What room are you in? What room are you in?
Back.
Restart. Just scroll back a little bit. We all watch it.
Oh man, guys, we talked about a lot of really great films that are premiering at SIFF, or that are screening at SIFF. Like I said, I love doing these conversations so that we can express what we're excited about and also get to know some things that may not have been on our radar, and really share what we're all interested in. So as we bring this conversation to a conclusion, I wanted to ask one more question, just a fun hypothetical. And that question is, which talent from a Seattle International Film Festival selected film would you want to make a surprise appearance at SIFF? I am going to start really quick and just say I would love if Darren Aronofsky and his busy schedule came to support the screening of Viktor. I mean, I talked about Viktor at the beginning of the movie. It's a beautiful film, and I am just clamoring for an interview with Darren Aronofsky. He actually has he's producing 2 films that are premiering at Tribeca here in a few weeks. And then of course, Viktor, he's working on so much and being a part of so many projects. And I think whenever his name is attached to a project, I'm instantly interested. And I want to talk to him about that. So Darren, come on, dude. Just like, we would love to have you here in Seattle. So put that out to the universe. Nick, what is your answer? If there was a surprise appearance from a SIFF selected film at the festival, who would you want it to be?
Interestingly enough, this was another trailer that we saw at the press launch for Blue Road, the Edna O'Brien story. Irish novelist, writer, journalist, and Jessie Buckley is doing the sort of the narration for the movie. I don't know if she's necessarily. I'm sure she's doing bits for Edna as well, but Jessie Buckley's just got such a great. There's something about that Irish accent that's great. I watched Men again not too recently, and she's just such a talent. So it would be really cool to have her there for something like that, especially with the important. It's going to be another one of those where I'm like, oh, here's some crazy important figure I never knew about, and look how interconnected she was with Sean Connery and all these people. It just seems super fascinating, the world she inhabited. So to hear Jessie Buckley come out and talk about that would be great.
I saw Wild Rose at SIFF, and that was my introduction to Jessie Buckley, and I have been in love with her ever since. So
she's terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. Elizabeth, who would you like to make a surprise appearance at SIFF?
Now I know he's going to be at Cannes because he has a double bill feature premiering at Cannes, and both of them in the uncertain regard, not an uncertain regard, in both of them in the official competition at Cannes. But I would love to see Josh O'Connor come over here to Seattle. I mean, we're able to get Viktor immediately after Cannes to come over here. So why can't we get Josh O'Connor? Because he has a double bill film premiering here. Obviously, we previously discussed Rebuilding, but he also narrates the documentary John Cocteau. I am pretty sure I mispronounced that. And I watched that documentary the other day, and possibly one of the most beautiful narrations I have heard in an incredibly long time. But yes, please, I am manifesting Josh O'Connor to come here, please.
Double bill at Cannes. This man is booked and busy.
He's bro is doing work. Like
we're gonna ride the Challenger's wave as far as it will take us.
Oh yeah, he is busy. He is doing work. Let's see, Eric. Let's round this out. Who would you like to make a surprise appearance at SIFF?
Before I get into that, I'm actually sitting right next to a Jean Cocteau poster. So, Josh O'Connor, if you're hearing this, another reason. My pick for the talent I would love to see make an appearance at SIFF is Ali Reza Khatami, who directed the film The Things You Kill, which was another Sundance premiere. This is a really interesting movie that really upends all of your expectations about it partway through. It's sort of a stealth thriller, stealth-like sort of psychological thriller. The SIFF website describes it as Lynchian, which is not what you might expect from a film coming out of Iran and Turkey. And for that type of film, it's like an incredibly personal film that seems like has a really interesting backstory. So I would love to hear Ali Reza Khatami come talk about it, come talk about the process of making the film, what it was like to be in Turkey. I think that would be really special.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, if any of that happens, we're going to recap it on the wrap up. In the meantime, I appreciate you guys jumping on this call and having this conversation. I'm excited for SIFF. I'm even more excited about it now that we've talked about our favorites. So for those looking for your SIFF coverage, where can they find it? Elizabeth, what are your plugs?
So you can find me at the celluloidcorrespondent.com. That's my personal website. I'm also available on Substack, Letterboxd, Instagram, Tumblr, and I also publish reviews for a Tacoma newspaper called The Weekly Volcano, if you want to check them out there. So always support your independent publishers and newspapers. So I highly recommend checking them out.
Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. Yeah. Eric, where can people find you and your SIFF coverage?
Yeah, you can find me in my SIFF coverage at my personal Substack, theinsert.substack.com. I also have some reviews over at Drink in the Movies. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. If you're on Letterboxd, search up E_zoo and you'll find me.
Awesome. And Nick, where can everyone find you and your SIFF coverage?
You can find it in written form at nicktiffany.com, personal review website, but NT Movie Reviews, anywhere you get your podcasts, YouTube, social medias. We'll be doing a lot of podcast-driven audio style stuff. So look for that. Typically YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Yeah, very cool. And of course, you can find my coverage and all of the stuff I do for SIFF at thisisforreel.com. For real, of course, spelled FORREEL. And yeah, I plan on doing a bunch of interviews, and I'm looking forward to sharing those conversations. It's going to be really awesome to dive into the filmmaking process and behind the scenes on some of the highly anticipated films at SIFF. So. Last time, guys, thank you again for joining us here. And until this festival is over, I'll probably be seeing you around at screenings, and we'll talk again after the festival.